Good evening and welcome to those who are just logging in. Welcome to our Engineering at Uni SC online information session. Just a reminder for those of you who've just entered, we've got our Q&A chat function available for you. We've got a range of amazing speakers from the engineering area of Uni SC, but if you have any questions for them or for our future students team, please don't hesitate to pop it into our chat and we'll help you out. We'll also have the opportunity to answer some of those questions live today as part of our Q&A panel. We're just going to wait another minute or so for a few more people to enter the session. Okay, I can see a few more people entering in. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Engineering at Uni SC online information session. My name is Naomi Alberti, and I'm the Senior Engagement Coordinator here at the University of the Sunshine Coast, and I have one of the best jobs in the world because I get to speak with people like you who are considering some future university options or have already decided potentially that they want to study engineering here at Uni SC and are here to get a bit more information and insights into what it's like as an engineering student here at the university. So before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we work and live and recognise their continuing connection to land, water and community. We pay respect to elders past, present and emerging. So in today's session, we've got a range of fantastic staff members here from Uni SC who are here today to talk to you about the engineering programs that we have. We have current students, we've got alumni and current staff from the engineering faculty, as well as someone who's newly graduated and is working within Unity Water and soon to be starting a job at ARUP, within that engineering field as well. So we've basically got someone from all the different, that student journey, right from the beginning all the way through to graduation, and then someone who's out there working in the field currently as well and is a graduate from a few years ago. So just a reminder, we've got a Q&A chat function as part of today. So if you do have any questions, no matter how specific or personal they are, you're welcome to pop them through into the chat. We also have the opportunity to ask questions live today as well. So please don't hesitate to pop them through. We're also going to give you a bit of an overview of what to expect from our Uni SC engineering programs from the range of different specialisations that we have on offer. We have some current students who are here today to talk about the student experience and what to expect as an engineering student here. We're also going to give an overview of our teaching methods and our approach to learning that we have, as well as an overview of the facilities and connections to industry that we have here, and is something we really pride ourselves on. We also are going to run through some of the career outcomes you can expect as part of this engineering programs, and also a bit of an idea of the different areas within engineering that these degrees can take you into. We've also got a range of pathway options and next steps, so we'll run you through those as well. In terms of why Uni SC, well, one thing we're really proud of and is something we're well known for is our 5-star student experience. So what that means is that at the end of everybody's university degree and each year, they do a bit of an outcome survey in terms of what they thought of their programs, and we've been given 5 stars from our students. So that's something we really pride ourselves on. We also have a really modern approach to learning, and this is something that we're going to go into detail as part of today's session, as well as our focus on employability. In terms of our campuses, we have 5 major campuses that you can choose from. In terms of engineering, our focus is usually at our Uni SC Sunshine Coast campus, which is based in our Sippy Downs region within the Sunny Coast, and is one you're probably quite familiar with. But we also have our Moreton Bay campus, which is very exciting. It's been open for a few years now. It's a full service university campus with a range of fantastic facilities available and a range of specializations as well. And we'll go into detail into those and where and those options you have as part of that brand new Moreton Bay campus that you can access. As well as something to keep in mind is that no matter where you are, there's a Uni SC experience close to you. So whether you're studying from home or you're attending campus in person, we offer a lot of flexible study options as well. And we have a network of locations all across Southeast Queensland. So support. So there's often this misconception for a lot of university students is this idea that it's an adult learning environment, and it very much is an adult learning environment. But something I want to really get across to everyone who's here today is that there is a range of support available for you as part of your university journey. So we've got everything from academic and study support, careers and employment. We've got free counselling available to students as well. And it doesn't need to be related necessarily to your university studies. It could be something that you may be struggling with. We also, for example, for those of you who are considering, what are potentially my career options post-engineering, I would definitely recommend meeting with someone from careers and employment, for example. I know for myself personally, when I was a uni student, I tapped into them and they were able to do mock interviews with me and guide me in my resume writing and things like that. So please don't hesitate to search support on our website for more information. A big focus for us as a university, and there's something that's really important for those of you who are considering your options, is employment. So 90% of our graduates find employment within 4 months of finishing study. And this is obviously very important for all of us because ultimately we want to be gaining employment, hopefully here locally as well, in an area of our interest. For an example, today we're going to be hearing from people like James Gent and Emily Harding, who are doing fantastic things in the sustainability and climate change area of engineering. So there's basically, there's so many different options for you as part of this engineering degree, and this is something we'll talk about at length as part of this session. We also have professional and practical learning as part of all of our Uni SC degrees, and great specialist teaching facilities, materials and equipment, which we'll showcase as part of this session as well. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to a current university student. Her name's Alicia Griffiths. She's studying from our Moreton Bay campus and she's in an engineering mechanical specialisation. So without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Alicia Griffiths, who's going to introduce herself and give us a bit of an idea of her journey to Uni SC, and also will be outlining the different specialisations you can major in as part of your engineering program.
Awesome, thanks Naomi. So my name's Alicia and I've just finished my 3rd year of my mechanical engineering degree. So I'm about to go into my 4th year now. So I'm nearly finished, which is really exciting for me. So I'm actually from a school which was out west. So I lived 4 hours from Brisbane. So that meant that I had to relocate to come to university. So there's no stress if that is you as well. But if you are living a little bit closer, that is definitely going to be doable for you. So what got me into engineering is I've been pretty passionate since I was quite young about sort of machinery and how things work. I've always liked to know how things work. So that was kind of what made me go down the path of engineering. To be honest, when I finished high school, I really didn't think that I was going to be capable of doing it. I didn't think I was good enough at the maths and the science, but I thought, hey, I'll just give it a go for a year. And if I hate it, I hate it. And if not, here I am. So it's 3 years in and I'm still loving it, which is awesome. So I'm currently at the Moreton Bay campus. And as I said, I had to relocate from 4 hours west of Brisbane. So for that, I did actually receive a relocation bursary, which might be eligible for some of you guys. So that was for $5,000 to help me get set up once I'd moved from out west. So it might not be eligible for you. However, there are plenty of other options for scholarships if you're worried about sort of money and things like that. There's heaps of bursaries and money that can get given to you for help. So as I said, yeah, I always had a bit of an interest in planes and things like that. So the picture at the top there is a picture of me at Rolls-Royce. So I'm sure you've heard of Rolls-Royce making cars, but they actually make aero engines as well. So that big plane in the bottom photo there, I'm actually stood next to the engine, the last one ever made in that top photo there. So that was pretty exciting for me. And obviously because of my interest in university engineering, I was able to go and visit that over in the UK and see that. Moreton Bay was the closest one for my to my home, so I just decided to go there. We've got brand new facilities there. It's super exciting. Being in STEM course was definitely something I knew that I wanted to do, but as I said, I wasn't too sure if I was going to be able to do it. but you do get a good balance. And if you've got a few good people around you, lots of friends that can help you out, you'll pretty much well cruise through it. So in the future, I'm hoping to go and work around some planes and helicopters. I'm not sure whether I'm going to go down the defense route for that or go and work somewhere like Rolls-Royce or something, and start building those plane engines, which sounds pretty exciting. But I definitely didn't know any of what I know now when I joined the university. So I saw a few questions in there before about, do you need to know any coding before you come into university? No, I didn't know anything to do with coding. I didn't know how to wire up a circuit board or anything. That's all things that you get taught in your first year. And as I said, if something excites you, if you enjoy something and you want to get out of bed every morning to go and see it or do it, it will make sure that you go to university, you stay committed, and your support network as well of friends and family that might be able to help you out will definitely pull you through. So a bit about the engineering degree as a whole. So it is a 4-year degree. It does go pretty quickly. I am in my 3rd year now, and I can't even remember joining in my 1st year. So you can study that at Sunshine Coast or Moreton Bay campuses, full-time or part-time. So it's 4 years full-time, and it can be up to 8 years part-time, depending on how much study load you're willing to take on. And it does have an ATAR of 60, which is pretty achievable. Other universities have quite high ATARs for this program, but we're just trying to open up and try and get more students in. We need more engineers in the world, so us having a lower ATAR means that we can have more students join us. So for that, the prerequisites are just English. Sorry. You don't need any of the maths as a prerequisite. I definitely would recommend that you've done some sort of math study. You don't need to have done it. There will be support for you if you haven't done methods or specialist maths in school. But definitely did help me. I did methods in high school, so it helped me have a bit of an idea what I was looking at when I came into the course. But it has changed since I joined. There's a lot more support that you can have now if you haven't studied those prior to it. So your first year, there is 4 different types of engineering that we offer. So we've got mechanical, civil, electronic, and mechatronic. But in your first year, you're all together. So in your first year, you get to make a lot of friends within the different degrees. And if you decided that you're in civil and then you absolutely hated it and wanted to go to mechanical, because it's more fun, obviously, you can definitely do that in your first year. You kind of get a little bit of a taste of everything to see what you're best at and what you most enjoy. So you can chop and change a little bit in your first year, which is really good. So a little bit about the mechanical. So it sort of looks at your moving parts, so your engines, turbines, things that move and need to be wired up and things like that. So that will be like designing complex machinery and things like that as well. Definitely does go across the board for all engineering. As a mechanical engineer, you can work in a civil job or an electronic job, whichever one you prefer. But yeah, this one probably opens as many doors as you can think of. If you've got more of a passion for the moving parts and things like that, you're probably better off going with a mechanical. But as I said, you can chop and change, especially in your first year, or any time throughout your degree as well, if you do decide that you're not interested in it anymore. But yeah, first year is definitely the one to chop and change if you need to. But mechanical is my favorite, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be here 3 years later. So a little bit about civil. So if you've got a bit of an interest in your static buildings, so buildings, bridges, roads, things like that don't typically move, or that we don't want to move at least, that might be something that you might want to study. So you'll look at how trusses can hold up buildings and how different types of concrete and soil can hold different weights and things for buildings and bridges to be built on them. Obviously very important as we're growing. We've also got the Olympics coming up in a few years' time, so we're going to need people to build stadiums and probably bigger roads and things like that to support all the people that are going to be visiting, which is really exciting. You will get to do a 60-hour work placement through any of our degree pathways in engineering. So I've kind of combined my love of mechanical and a little bit of civil, and I'm working for a company called Ventia. So they do a lot of the maintenance on high voltage power lines around Queensland. So I work in sort of the project management of that. So even though I'm doing mechanical, I am sort of working in more of an electrical, sort of even civil job. So you can definitely combine your love of all of them if you need to. A bit about electronics. So this one is kind of looking at obviously your power lines and things, how they all kind of work, wiring up little electronic boards. So for the next one that we're going to look into with mechatronic, this one kind of ties in quite nicely with it. So you'll look at different voltage and things. So you could go and work in a power station. You could go and work with solar panels. Everything that needs to be wired up and have a circuit will be something to do with electronic and electrical engineering. They all have honours with them, so that is why they're a 4-year degree, not a 3-year degree. It kind of just gives you that extra step up over normal Bachelor of Engineering programs at other universities, which employers will look for. And last one, so mechatronic. This one looks at your robots and things that move. So you might be on a production line building robots that pack food or something. People in Brisbane that we went to visit in our first year when we went on our field trips, we went to a place called EPE where they build little robots that go out into the field and go and defuse bombs. So things like that. Obviously, we don't want people going out there and doing that. So we're going to get robots to do that. So we need someone to go and sit and code and wire these things up so that we can have exciting things like that. Awesome. Thank you, guys. I'll pass over.
Thanks so much, Alicia. It was fantastic hearing about all those different specializations. Also, she has an amazing story to share. So for anyone who does have some questions for Alicia, please don't hesitate to pop them through into our Q&A chat. She'll be answering questions on there, but also there'll be the opportunity that she can answer some of those questions for you live in our Q&A panel. So without further ado, because we've got lots of fantastic speakers today, I'd like to introduce Emily Harding, who is here as a soon-to-be graduate as part of our program. She's done a Bachelor of Civil Engineering Honours course, and she also is currently working out of Unity Water and will soon be taking on a role next year at ARUP as well. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Emily.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily Harding and I'm really happy to be able to share a little bit about my journey at UniSC today. So as Naomi just mentioned, I've just completed my Bachelor in Civil Engineering with honours and I had a minor in Environmental Studies for this as well. So just a little bit of background about me. I grew up on the beautiful Sunshine Coast, always loving the beach, very typical, and I've always been passionate about maths, design, and the environment, hence choosing to study civil engineering. Throughout my time at UniSC, I've been exposed to so many great opportunities. I've been able to participate in some awesome events and competitions such as GovHack, which my team actually won for the competition we entered into. And I got to take place in so many different field trips and excursions, such as an awesome weekend away to Stradbroke Island, which can be seen in that photo there with the pretty blue water in the background. Also, for a professional point of view, I was able to take place in some really great networking events where I was able to build up my portfolio and make some really valuable industry connections. Now, just more for the general campus lifestyle, I mostly went to the Sippy Downs campus and it was always exciting. There's always something going on for both professional and personal growth. Personal favourites of mine were the market days that they held and all the yummy food options around the campus. At UniSC, I always felt really supported with my academic goals, but I always felt super encouraged to make friends and have fun whilst at uni as well. So just moving on, I was also able to work part-time at Unity Water whilst completing my studies. This was super rewarding because I was able to gain some industry exposure while still working towards completing my degree. So that was awesome. And for financial aid, I did actually receive a scholarship. This was called the Unity Water Fiona Waterhouse Women in STEM Scholarship. This was $5,000 and I also gained work experience opportunities through this. This really obviously helped me financially, but also was really nice just as some recognition for my academic efforts I had made so far. And moving forward to now, I've just finished my studies for the meantime, and I've landed a grad role at Arup, which is a leading global engineering firm. I could not have landed this role without the close teacher connections I have made at the uni, such as with James, who you'll hear from later. And yeah, I'm super happy with this position and super excited to get started. Just to finish off, I can confidently say that UniSC has really helped me gain the skills and knowledge I need to be a real life engineer, which is crazy to say. And I've also made so many lifelong friends along the way, which has been really fun. If I could give students any advice in the future, it would be that the more you turn up and are actually present at the uni, the more you're going to get out of it and the better your outcomes will be overall. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Emily. And I loved your advice there. And it's something I definitely believe as well, is the more you turn up and you are present, the more you get out of it. And I think you're living proof of that. And the fact that you've finished uni, really enjoyed yourself, made some fantastic connections with your peers and also with your teachers and tutors, and now have a graduate position, I think you should be really proud. So congrats on that. And if anyone does have any questions for Emily, do please pop them into our Q&A chat. I'm sure she'd love to chat with you, and we'll have the opportunity for questions for her throughout the session as well. Thanks so much, Emily.
Thank you.
So without further ado, I'd like to hand it over to James Gent. So this is someone that Emily actually mentioned as part of her session before, because James has actually worked with Emily as part of his work here at the university. So I'd love to introduce him. He's currently working in sustainability and climate change and as an engineer, and he's had a really interesting journey as part of that as well. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce James Gent.
Thank you. Hey everybody, it's so nice to be able to present I guess the next generation of engineers. Look, I love my career and I love what I get to do now, but I wouldn't be where I am now without a really interesting, diverse type journey to get there. And there might be some other members in this cohort, but I was the first from my family as well to do university studies. I actually gave it a crack back in 2006 when I finished high school at Coolum, but look, it wasn't for me at the time, so I joined the Defence Force to try to get those life skills up and travel the world, and I did those things. It was really good. I got a trade. But I always had an itch that I needed to scratch, and it was to come back to UniSC. It's where I'd had to go the first time, but it wasn't quite right. But second time, I knew it's where I needed to be. I just had to come back with I needed to come back with a more mature mindset, which I did. So I started my engineering degree. And while I was, look, I'm going to dive a little bit further into the types of things I did while I was here, but I had such a great time. At the moment, my role, yes, though I had studied civil engineering, I do sit in the sustainability and climate change space. So that might sound a little bit interesting, but at the end of the day, engineers are just problem solvers. And I think the world's biggest problem at the moment is climate change. And that's where my passion is. I did actually do some postgrad study as well in climate change adaptation. And I'm a lecturer and course coordinator at UniSC, so I'll see you guys soon. I think, and also, yeah, in that picture, that was my dog Layla. That's my that's my world. So anyway, next one. Okay, so my time at UniSC was amazing. I've made friends for life while being there. I was lucky enough to complete a summer semester in Germany during the years of COVID. I know that really dried up, but from all accounts, it's really fired up again. But I love that. There was a sustainability course actually that I did in a little town called Kassel, which is 100% renewable. And that was all scholarship driven as well. So there was nothing out of pocket. I was broke at university. So all of these little tweaks and things that came my way really made my life easy. I had an internship at Shadforth, so a local contractor, and I did that for 2 years before in my last year I started at Arup as well. I was a student ambassador, same as Alicia. An amazing role and function at the uni. And if you haven't seen at one of your schools, you might have seen an ambassador come by at some point, but that was really cool. I landed multiple scholarships, not because I was clever, but because I submitted for them. I was okay at sport. I was being active in the community, and those things were the things that actually got me up with scholarships. There are a lot of people a lot more clever than I was, but it's like a cricket team. You need the 11 players to turn up. So I was I was always the one that turned up to make sure we could field the team. Yeah, so once again, made lifelong friendships. And now I've gone full circle, and I teach here. And these are the sorts of lessons. Everything I've shared there is kind of what is kind of what's got me here, and what I share with all my students now. Life after Uni SC, though. So as mentioned, I'm now a climate change specialist, specifically around adaptation. And you might find that a bit interesting from a civil background. I didn't go straight into this. I started in the highways transport space, so designing roads, or static systems that Alicia was mentioning earlier, but also a lot of dynamic systems, so the flow of water. But I've also dabbled in things like lighting, signal design, all sorts of different things as well. So big infrastructure projects all the way down to, you know, intersection type design. But at some point in time, my passion was going to overtake that, and that is trying to solve this wicked problem around climate change. Since finishing, though, Uni SC, I have been at Arup since. So I've been at Arup now 8 years. As Emily mentioned, it's a global engineering firm. We're lucky enough to have an office on the Sunshine Coast. I started the office here as an intern, actually, and then I'm a part of the furniture. There's about 40 people in this office. As a part of that, I've travelled to Singapore to help develop an urban agriculture system, and that was specifically around making sure that honeybees could migrate to every corner of Singapore because they have so much food waste. I've spent the last 12 months in Peru on the Peru Reconstruction Project. So that is arguably the largest climate change program ever, and probably for many, many years to come. And that's specifically around creating resilience for the Peruvian communities from the very top of the Andes all the way to the coastal basins. And is a huge passion of mine, and something that I'd love to talk about at length. While I was in Peru, I was able to do things in the Amazon. So looking at how do we regenerate the mining, the illegal gold mines. You can sort of see in one of the photos, that's a little pit viper that I found. And so that stick is like the size of a cotton bud. So that thing was dangerous. And there's no anti-venom for a pit viper. So keep your eye out for those guys. I've done projects with the G20 on different circular economy projects, and that's all through Europe. And yeah, as I mentioned, all of my learnings I teach here at Uni SC. One course that I'm involved in is Eng 101. So it's the first course that you'll do when you come to uni now. And yeah, I try to sprinkle these little bits across that as well. So how you'll learn. The things have changed a little bit since when I studied here, but I think it's changed for the better. In the way that the types of teachers and the education staff that you have at Uni SC take a lot of pride in getting to know the students and being able to give you a real up-to-date, hands-on style of learning. You'll also find that a lot of our teachers and education staff are in industry. So there's myself. There's a number of my actual friends in industry are teachers, which is amazing. And you combine that with the professional academic staff that we have at Uni SC, and it's a marriage of really good skills for our students. The state of different types of equipment that we have at Uni SC. So I think there's going to be a little video pop up in a second, or once we finish this slide, on Moreton Bay campus. So state-of-the-art facility. I think it's one of the newest campuses in definitely Australia and probably the Southern Hemisphere. And the equipment down there is top notch. But that's not to say that the facilities that we have at Sippy Downs are also very, very cool, just different, depending on what your flavor is. But either way, you can cross and change, and you'll find that you'll make friendships across the board, and between both those campuses. And yeah, the study abroad, I highly recommend it. even today, like so many years after finishing my degree, people ask me about the experience that I had in Germany, because it's extremely lucky to be able to have that. So here's a little video of Moreton Bay.
So today we're at USC's Moreton Bay campus, and my job here is to show you some of our world-class facilities that can help you study to obtain a degree in civil, mechanical, mechatronic or electronic engineering. The first question is, what is an engineer? Well, engineers solve problems. I'm a civil engineer. Let's go look at some of our civil engineering facilities first. Come this way. So when we build stuff like this building that we're in, we need columns that support things vertically, and we need beams that support things horizontally. Here Annalise is testing a cylindrical sample of concrete to measure its strength, or the stress at which it fails. Engineers need to understand the strength of materials to design the infrastructure that we use on a day-to-day basis. But the next question we need to think about is, what does this infrastructure sit on? Well, we all understand that infrastructure sits on the soil, so what we really need to also understand is how strong is the soil. Here, Callum is measuring the flow of water through soil, from which we can estimate water pressure, and thus forces on submerged structures like dams or the foundation of a building. We've just come from our civil engineering labs where we've been looking at things on a large scale. Now we're here in one of our electronic and mechatronic labs to start looking at how we might consider the small scale, how things are made and constructed for everyday devices like our mobile phones. Here, Tiffany is using a soldering iron to construct an electrical circuit. Circuits like this are found in every electronic device we use, from our phones to cars and heavy machinery. Next, Ainsley is over here on the bench, testing a circuit to ensure that it works the way we expect it to. You can see that the screen shows the input and output waveforms on an amplifier, which we can then use to measure the circuit's performance. We've just looked at the construction and testing of electronic circuit boards. And why are they useful? Well, they're useful to construct small autonomous robots like this. What we need to remember is that engineering is all about problem solving. Whether it's from the large scale to the small scale, these are the sort of things that will help you to conceive, construct and test at USC. I look forward to seeing you on campus soon.
So, as Adrian was mentioning, we do, and I guess I touched on it before, we do have a variety of state-of-the-art equipment, but it's equipment that's not, what I really want to emphasize is that it's equipment not just for the sake of equipment, it's fit for purpose. So it's things that are, and devices that are actually going to be supporting you on your educational journey, and also help give you that theoretical foundation that's going to support you when you do get into industry as well. So, you know, we're not always stress testing piles when you're in the real world, but the fact that you know when a pile's going to break is extremely important. Yeah. You will get that immediate industry exposure studying at UniSC. I did mention earlier that I have done my postgrad, and I actually did it at Griffith. And I did that because I wanted to test what else it's like to study somewhere else as well. But one thing that I did find, and there was a big limit in terms of that industry exposure compared to what I did have at UniSC. And this is just a sample, a bite-sized piece of the type of industry exposure you can have, emphasizing that we've got lots of friendships with the different consultancy firms that are on the coast as well, which support Sunshine Coast Council, which support Transport and Main Roads, Engineers Australia, etc. But you can see Shadforth's up there. That was my that's where I started working. And when I find it funny because I remember when I was on the coast young, just finishing school, I remember everyone ripping around in the Shadforth's utes, and I just thought I want to be one of those guys. But I was for a little bit, but yeah, not anymore. But yeah, definitely take advantage of those that direct industry exposure.
When I finished my trade qualification as an electrician early last year, I felt like coming back to study electrical engineering was really natural progression for me. I was very blown away when I first visited USC Moreton Bay. The technology we'll be using in the laboratories we're using in industry today, so it's very modern. You get the support you need from the lecturers because of the class size, which is really great as well. What I love most about my program is how close-knit the students are. It doesn't matter what class you're in, you'll feel so welcomed. You will never need to worry about finding a group. I remember in Engine 103, I was sitting by myself and I had someone come up to me and say, "Hey, join our group." A lot of the lecturers like to email out all of the students and notify them of upcoming experiences. Adrian has emailed us an experience with Theus for a vacation program. I applied for that one, put him on my references, and I've been shortlisted for that opportunity.
Awesome. I did just see a question pop up in the chat as well, from Andy. So one for the electrical engineers, Arduino or Raspberry Pi. Look, I'm not an electrical engineer, but I was in the Defence Force and did a lot of electronics, so I get it. And for me, I like the practicality and the robustness of an Arduino. Though the language can be a little bit more challenging, I find a Raspberry Pi a bit more fun and sort of more of a great introduction resource for the students. But if you're wanting to build something robust, do the Arduino. In fact, my final thesis project was run with an Arduino as I developed a conductivity temperature depth sensor to understand the deep ocean currents. It's pretty cool. So yeah. Program highlights. So from your first year, you're going to be in the field. There's going to be excursions. There's going to be all different types of things that you're going to be exposed to. Yes, you're going to have the theoretical side of it. You will have the introductory level math courses and things like that, but you're also going to get that taste of what the real world is all about. And I'm hoping I get to be the one that shows you some of these. Will give you some of those experiences as well. So boost your employability with innovative projects and partnerships to work on. You're going to benefit from direct industry engagement. So the guest speakers, the networking, work experience and engineering partners. I think that's one of the biggest benefits of UniSC is the fact that you are going to be upfront, have that type of engagement. We have a lot of, for example, Engineers Australia events on the Sunshine Coast. You can attend these, start networking, start beefing up your profiles as well. The campuses themselves are great. As Emily mentioned as well, you've got the nicer side of things. For you got your nice food, you got your coffee, and plenty of spaces as well. You can get that mental respite. And as a result of studying at UniSC, you will become an accredited member of Engineers Australia, which will lead you into being able to become a chartered engineer and RPEQ engineer in Queensland, which is what I am now. Yeah. I think before I sort of wrap up, there was a huge stigma attached to where you study when I kicked off my my journey, and I think it's safe to say that it's flawed. I chose UniFC for the lifestyle, but I left with so many amazing experiences, the theoretical knowledge that equipped me to do whatever I want. I feel like I've got like a creative engineering license to kind of pick and choose where I am and what I do. And I think compared to some of my comrades within my company and other companies, I think it's doing pretty well. So yeah, it's definitely a farce. So thank you.
Thanks so much, James. And it was so great just hearing how diverse your background was and your journey and the range of different places that you've been able to work and that you're able to follow your passion and, work to for the greater good of climate change. That's amazing. What we're going to do now is we've got the opportunity to have a bit of a chat just for a few minutes in terms of some questions that we've had throughout the session. So I thought I'd open it up to all of you as part of the panel. So we've got a current student, we've got a new graduate, and we've also got someone working currently in the field and who is teaching as well. I was just keen to find out, so why engineering and why engineering at UniSC? I might hand that over to Emily perhaps to answer.
Yeah, so I did mention this a little bit. I was always pretty academic at school, always knew I loved maths, but I had a bit of a creative flair as well. So I kind of wanted to combine both of those things. And also growing up on the sunny coast, I feel like I've always been out in nature. So I've had a bit of a love for the environment. When I was looking into all my options, civil engineering was kind of the one that combined all of my passions the best possible. So yeah, I guess that's why I picked it, and I'm very glad I did.
Oh, awesome. And for you, I thought a bit of a question you could draw from Alicia, perhaps, and Emily, you're welcome to jump in too. For those of us who are looking at engineering, we know that first year is a common year, so you get a bit of a taste of all the different majors, which I think is fantastic for those people who are a little bit unsure. But what would your advice be, Alicia, for people in terms of choosing majors?
Yeah, so for me, I guess it was kind of where my interest and my passion was. That's what took me into mechanical, because I knew that going into moving parts and engines and turbines was down that pathway. Obviously, within the other disciplines, you can pick from whichever one sort of most aligns with where you're at and what you're most interested in. But with that, you can actually pick a minor course. So for me, I'm doing my mechanical engineering, but I'm also doing a minor in business studies, so that can get me into project management and things like that. So we learn heaps of different things that you would learn in a normal business course. So you can combine the two. Obviously, you can do your environmental science, which is a different one that you can take as a minor as well. As a mechanical engineer, you can also do that one as an electrical minor as well. So a couple of my friends in my degree doing mechanical are also doing an electrical minor. So for the question that was in the chat, Marcus there, if you're wanting to be a Sparky, if you are a Sparky, sorry, and you're thinking of doing electrical and potentially a couple of the other types of engineering as well, you might like to pick electrical engineering and then do a minor in mechanical or civil, or vice versa. You can do that. So you get to pick a little bit of both there.
Fantastic. And you've answered, that was going to be my next question, was around the different majors. And we did have a question as well come through in terms of changing majors partway through. I don't know if that's something, James, you'd be able to touch on in terms of a bit of flexibility there.
When I was doing it, it was a little bit challenging, but it's always doable. It's always doable. I think I think it's really important after the first year, you're going to get a little bit of a taste of everything. And if you can, try to pull the trigger on maybe what you want to do then. But there still will be, if you are still a little uncertain, there will be some courses that are overlapping. So if you can, try to pick those ones that are going to give you at least those credit points to contribute to your overall degree. But yeah, you can chop and change as much as you like in reality.
And we've just had some really good questions come through for you, James, specifically. So it's so great to hear that there is a bit of that flexibility. And what James said is, looking at your program structure and working out where there is crossover is really important, because obviously you want to save as much time as you can if you are making a move. But we've asked a question around what is a day in terms of being an engineer, what is an average day like at work? So what does that day look like? Is it stressful? What are the type of things we could expect to be doing as an engineer?
It is a really good question. And for me, every day is very different. I know it sounds super cliche, but it really is. And that sort of is a bit of a result of where I've picked my career to go. And look, every day, being every day, every day being so different, yeah, you do have your challenges and those stressful moments, but it's an engineering career is extremely rewarding as well. So the balance is definitely in the positive side. But you need to, as anyone, no matter what you do and no matter what you land in, it's really important to set your own boundaries. And when you actually are feeling like you are under stress, it's to talk to somebody and voice those opinions. There's always going to be someone there that's going to have your back. So it's important to share that communication. And then it's going to melt away from you those stresses. And in a team environment, people will help pick up the slack, or not the slack, those stresses for you. You'll also find it's very different to uni life. Uni is a giant aptitude test. It's really setting you up for what you're going to do in your career. So you're not going to be crunching numbers every day. I mean, you can if you want to go down like the modeling pathway or something like that. But majority of us, we use special tools that take that stress away and lets us focus on the important, more meaningful and strategic decisions.
Thank you. No, I think that's really good advice. And I'm sorry, there's another question for you, James. You're popular today. So did you find for yourself, obviously you went through, Defence Force first. So sort of for a lot of people here, they're potentially coming straight from school, but there are some that have gone a different way and they've done a gap year. It might be a 10-year gap year, or they've gone to the workforce. But did you find there were any challenges starting uni a little bit later in life? And, what were those and what would your advice be?
Look, I felt I was just ready. You when you know. I think it's really important to definitely not make age as a barrier. When I first turned up on day one, I looked around the classroom. I found the oldest looking guy in the room, who's now one of my best friends. Andrew Lindsay is his name. And I said, I'm going to partner up with that guy because I think he looks like he looks clever. Anyway, I ended up being best man at his wedding.
Wow.
Yeah, so to be honest, and he's killing it. He had a mortgage. He had different things going on, and he was able to get through. I was still a bit younger than him, but I didn't find it challenging at all. I was just ready. I was ready to go. We've got another vacation student at Arup at the moment who has a young family, a dog, a mortgage, all these things that can be quite stressful, stressful events and milestones in life. But I think the uni support systems have really helped him as well. So, different academic support, different bursaries. But once again, when you know.
Yeah, no, that's such great advice. And I think, is good in terms of, I know for students when they ask me, how do you know if it's the right one? It's always like, if you wake up in the morning and it's what you feel passionate about, you're going to enjoy yourself. And I think that's when you're in the right space and environment. I have a question now for Alicia, and we've probably only got a couple more minutes that we can do on the Q&A, but feel free to keep feeding through those questions. There's some really great ones in there. We've got some questions around study resources. So, textbooks, recommendations, is there the possibility to hire them out, from the library, things like that? What's been your experience, and do you have any advice in terms of what those resources look like?
Yeah, so for me, there is usually a textbook for each course. So you might have 4 per semester, and they'll all refer back to the textbook. Majority of them will post those. So if there's any questions that you get given for sort of your homework and assignments and things, they will actually put a picture of that question in your resources. So you don't actually need the physical textbook to look at the questions. Some tutors do, some tutors don't. It just depends. But you can hire them out from the library. For myself, it's a little bit bad, but I've never actually paid for a textbook. Most of them you can actually find online for free. Even if your friend buys the physical copy, you can use the code that uses the online. If you do prefer a physical book, obviously, you can find them secondhand. I think we have a textbook secondhand group on Facebook for the university as a whole. So if you don't want to spend the whole $50 or something for a textbook, you might be able to find it a bit cheaper on there or on Facebook Marketplace. There's heaps of different options, but we do have majority, if not all of our required textbooks in the library, even our online library resource that we have through the university. So don't stress too much about having the physical book. If you prefer an online, then at least you can go in the PDF and go Control F and sort of search for keywords and things like that, which is definitely very helpful instead of having to flick through a physical book. So yeah, there's definitely lots of options for textbooks.
Thanks. That's a really handy tip, actually, especially as a uni student, navigating lots of the different costs that you may come across, and something to always think about. I know at the moment our scholarship applications aren't open for Sem 1, but what people don't realise is that you can apply for those throughout your study. It doesn't need to be necessarily in your first year. So definitely keep an eye out for things like scholarships, financial support. Obviously, Centrelink is another area that you can look into as well in terms of youth allowance or Austudy, things like that. So before we move on, I think a really great question to close on, and I might pose this to Emily, is what do you love most about engineering?
Honestly, since working in industry, I feel like I've learned so much more about engineering. I think while it's not necessarily a career where you're hands-on necessarily caring for someone, it's a career where you're caring for the community. You're helping to connect people, you're helping the environment, you're building infrastructure that everyone is using, so on for mechanical and electrical. It is really a caring career, and it's really rewarding to be able to see your work kind of play out and come to life in front of you. So yeah, I think that's probably my favorite thing about it.
I love that. And James, do you have any closing remarks to share about what you love most about engineering?
I think it's the flexibility in your career options. You know, like I said, I studied civil, but I'm doing something completely different now, but I'm still solving problems. And who knows what's next? I mean, my calendar is open, so I'm really excited to see, you know, what the types of activities and projects I get to be a part of. Yeah, just go out there and enjoy it. I think that's the key. And find the oldest guy in the room, and, you know, oldest person in the room, and yeah, just latch on.
Well, that's fantastic advice. And for those of you, we've sort of run out of time for more questions, but if you do have any more questions, please don't hesitate to pop them into our Q&A chat. And I'm just going to share with you now, I guess, those next steps in terms of those of you who have decided you're, you know, you're ready and you want it raring and wanting to go into our engineering program. So we'll share a bit of insights in terms of what that will look like for you. So thank you so much to James, Emily, and Alicia for sharing your stories. It's been fantastic to hear from you all. So for those of you who are in the process of applying for potentially engineering, and hopefully you've chosen to come to us, when you do your preferences on QTACs, and some of you may have already gone through this process, but your preference 1 and 2 is usually going to be your 2 preferred programs. So for someone who is interested in engineering, you'd obviously have that as your number 1 and number 2 preference. And then we generally advise to have some less competitive programs that you may want to study to upgrade into that course, and some pathway programs for preference 5 and 6. If you do ever have any questions in terms of preferences and how to do your QTAC application, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'll have our contact details at the end if you want to touch base with us, or you can pop it in our Q&A chat. So what to expect next? So we'll send you an email if you've received an offer to study at UniSC. Remember to accept that offer as well as the offer that you received directly from us. So you'll have your QTAC as well as an email from UniSC Central. So I know for myself, back when I was applying for university for the first time, I was really excited and received my QTAC offer and I accepted it. But I missed the second step. So I sat there wondering what's going on until I realized, hang on, something's not quite right, and realized there was that next step. So please learn from my mistakes and do this 2-step part of that process. Once you've accepted your offer, you can start to enroll in your courses, which is very exciting. So you'll be able to head to the program page on the website, and it'll give you a breakdown of all the different courses and the order in which you should do them as well. And this can be based on your location of study. So for example, if you're like Alicia and you're going to be doing mechanical engineering at Moreton Bay, you'd select Moreton Bay in the drop-down and follow that program of study. And register for classes. So that's your 3rd step, and a very important one. So class selection can be quite competitive at times. So try to make sure you plan this out in advance if you can, and try to get on there nice and early. That way you're likely to receive those classes of your choosing. So for example, a Friday 8 a.m. class may be less popular than another class, let's say at 10 a.m. on a Monday or Tuesday, for example. So try to get on there nice and early if you can. And here's a few tips, and I know these are things that we've spoken about a bit throughout today's session, but attend your orientation week. So orientation's a great way to meet other like-minded students and other engineers, or future engineers in your case. And there's things like campus tours, there's opportunities to join different clubs and societies and to create those networks that we've been speaking about. And it's just a great way to get a feel for university life and what you can expect once you start. So definitely recommend attending those. Also, like what Emily shared, is you really, with university, you get out of it what you put in. So try to go to class and put in the work. We do find our university students that tend to perform the best are the ones that attend and make the most of those opportunities. And something James mentioned is support. There's so much support and you're not alone. So please don't hesitate to reach out. We've got a really wide range of support services. We've got everything from academic and study support. It may be that you're wanting a bit of assistance in terms of, your maths components of certain courses that you're doing. Please don't hesitate to reach out for those support and access it as you need it. We've also got things like our careers and employment team, counselling, you name it. And find a balance. So uni is ultimately, it's meant to be a very enjoyable experience. Obviously it's important and you want to study and do your assessments and focus on those, but you also want to schedule in time for your family and social life because you ultimately want to enjoy this experience. So try to schedule in time and find that balance best you can. I know even at Moreton Bay, we've got fantastic gym facilities, for example, and cafes you can access, as well as our beautiful Sunshine Coast campus. So you want to make that time to, connect with other people and make the most of that experience while you're in it and get involved. So James mentioned before, he was an ambassador, he was in different clubs and societies. He made sure that he sort of said hi to different people throughout his first week and found people, fellow like-minded people. So try to get involved as best you can because that way it's going to be a very enjoyable experience for you. So thanks so much for having us today. Here's some of our details if you do want to connect with us. Obviously, we'll have our Q&A chat functioning for a few more minutes before we close today. So if you do have any last minute questions, please pop them in. Otherwise, these are our details if you want to get in touch. So you can email information@usc.edu.au, and here's our phone number as well if you want to touch base with us. And we've also got our various social media pages that you can follow us on as well. I want to thank everyone today for attending. Thank you so much to our guest speakers as well for taking part in today's session. If you do have any more last minute questions, please don't hesitate to pop them in our chat. We'll stay online for a few more minutes to answer those. But without further ado, thank you so much for listening to us today, and we really look forward to seeing you here next year.